Hey guys, thanks for joining us today on Unfathered Fathers. Today we've got Rose, and Rose is kind of unique as far as I haven't known Rose that long, other than Tropical Smoothie. She works at Tropical Smoothie, and that's the first time that I probably actually met her. And then come to find out that we end up knowing some of the people I know she's related to, and I just found out that I actually know her dad. So anyway, Rose, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having
today.
me.
And Rose has recently started coming to our church, and so I knew that she had been in Teen Challenge, and I was like, I know you got a story, love to hear it.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got her on the show. So Rose, thanks for being here, and excited to hear your story. So Rose, tell me kind of where you're born, how where you grew up, and kind of what childhood was like.
So I was born in Dallas. Moved here when I was probably like 2 or 3, I think. And I lived here most of my childhood. Growing up, things were pretty good at first. Like, my parents were married. I have a little sister. Went to school, played soccer, all the things. And I would just say, once second grade rolled around and my parents decided to get a divorce is kind of where my world kind of shifted a lot.
So before that, in school, you was involved and focused. Everything was pretty locked down.
It was pretty normal, I would say. Like, I went to Vacation Bible School, and I played soccer since I was like 4 up until I was about 12 or 13, I think.
Okay.
And just once my parents started getting a divorce, I was really angry at that point.
Did you kind of see it coming as a young age? How old were you?
I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, I think, when it was said.
So that would probably be about 8 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you kind of know that was going to happen, or did it catch you off guard?
When I think back, like, I feel like I had no idea.
Okay.
I think that there was definitely, like, they probably argued or whatever, but whenever my dad ended up moving out and stuff like that, like, I was just like, whoa, what the heck?
Were you like a daddy's girl? Were you pretty close to your dad?
Yeah, I bonded a lot with him through soccer, and he worked his butt off for us, and he still does. And so, like, soccer was our big thing that we got to do together. Yeah, he would be running up and down the field, cheering me on, and staying after and helping me practice and stuff like that. And so that was, like, our thing, I remember.
So you said Bible or Christian Vacation Bible School, whatever that is. Were you guys going to church as a family?
Not really as a family that I remember. And I honestly don't really think that we really went like Sundays. It was more like Wednesday night we would get dropped off at kids' church,
or
like
youth. Okay.
Yeah, or like vacation Bible study during the summers, stuff like that.
Okay. So when your parents got divorced, I guess you stayed with your mom?
Well, it was technically like split custody. We had a chaotic schedule where we would be 2 days one place, 2 days one place, and every other Wednesday we were at the other parents. We were just bouncing back and forth.
Every 2 days?
Yeah, it was. Wow. So it was Monday, Tuesday, every other Wednesday at my dad's, every other Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at my mom's, and then we swapped weekends.
So I imagine so often it's probably hard to be settled.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of, towards my older years, like once I was like probably 11 or 12, 13, I ended up staying more at my mom's because I could do more at my mom's. My mom's was a fun house.
Your dad was a little more strict?
Oh, yeah.
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 And so you didn't want to not have to obey the rules. You could go to mom's and kind of do what you wanted.
Yeah. And my mom was my best friend in that. Like, we bonded in a totally different way than my dad and I did. Like, I was definitely a daddy's girl, but like he made me do Right. And
Yeah.
there for a long time, I didn't want to have anything to do with that. So, and my mom also, she wanted the best for me too. But it was just easier to get my way with her. And so we kind of bonded over more friend-like things.
Yeah. Just kind of being more of a friend than
Yeah.
like telling you what you need to do. And,
Right.
Okay. So what did that look like? Because you said that when your parents got divorced, you kind of got angry. Did rebellion kind of start after that?
Yeah, I would say not like immediately after that, because I was always a pretty good kid until I wasn't. Like I kind of just stayed to myself. I was pretty mellow and just chill or whatever. So I didn't really like act out in a lot of big ways until like I started kind of partying a little bit and like hanging out with some of the, I don't want to say wrong people, but hanging out with people that did things that I wasn't used to doing. And that's kind of where my rebellion started, was like in the party hangout friend scene.
Just like parties from school and stuff like that?
Yeah. Smoking or drinking randomly. I probably started smoking weed when I was 12 or 13. And then partying on the weekends and just kind of progressed from there.
How was your like schooling during that time? Were you still able to maintain grades? And
My dad gets so mad because I was having Ivy League schools send me like summer camp programs in the mail when I was in like 6th and 7th grade. And, I just was like, oh, I don't want to be a nerd. And just kind of like blowing it off and stuff. But I was really, really smart. Even like when I wouldn't pay attention in class, I could take a test and I would be able to pass it, and so school was really easy for me. I didn't try my hardest in school, which I kind of regret, but yeah, I mean, I was good at it for the most part.
did you end up graduating?
I did. So it took me, I got kicked out of a couple schools. Elkins I got kicked out of.
What for what?
Just like bullying type stuff, acting out with some of the other kids. There was a couple girls that we just kept going back and forth, and I ended up in ISS and things like that. And so I ended up going from Elkins to Haas Hall, and at Haas Hall, I got caught smoking weed, and they told me I had to either pull myself out or I could face expulsion. And so at that point, that's when I moved to Texas and graduated in Texas.
Okay. All right. In Texas, were you able to get it back together to focus to finish school, or they just didn't really care and they just let you?
I did a lot better in Texas. I was hanging out with, I would say, a better group of people. I mean, there was definitely still like partying on random weekends if it was like homecoming or something like big going on, but it wasn't like every weekend partying and going crazy. And I was in a pharmacy tech program in school, and so I was like doing clinicals at the hospitals and stuff like that. So I really liked how the schools there was like more geared towards your future. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just like, oh, go take these 8 classes and then once you get done, then you can figure out what you're doing. They had a lot of good resources for like seniors and stuff like that. So I felt like I put a lot more effort in Texas until I graduated.
So after you graduated, were you still in Texas or did you move back to Arkansas?
Yeah, so I graduated in Texas and I started school at the community college in Terrell, Texas, which was just like 10 miles down the road from where I graduated. And within probably a month of graduation, I was introduced to like hardcore stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
A month before graduation?
a month after. I had graduated and
okay.
everything was good. I was going to my community college classes. I was
So
a
a month
waitress.
after high school graduation?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Not college. Yeah.
No, not college. I was actually a waitress at a restaurant in Texas, and one of the girls that worked there was like doing hardcore drugs, and that was the first time I had seen it or
Like
anything
what?
like that.
What kind of meth?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so were you just kind of the type of person like, yeah, I'll try it? Or were you reserved for a while and thought?
At first, I was like, what the heck is this? Like, I didn't really know. And like, I remember calling my little sister and just being like, bro, like, I don't know what the heck this girl's talking about, but like, she wanted me to go have a good time with them, and they seem like really cool people. And so I definitely questioned it before I tried it, but I mean, at that point, I had already like kind of dabbled in like pills before like in Elkins, I dabbled in pills just recreationally. And so like it had already kind of gotten to a point to where
Just slowly getting a little more aggressive.
yeah.
Did you snort it the first time, smoke it? What?
I want to say I smoked it the first time.
Okay.
Within the first probably 2 months, I had probably tried it in every way you could think.
Was like the first time you done it, were you hooked from the first time?
Not, I guess. I did it
And then
pretty
just-
consistently after that, but it wasn't like I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have it. Like deeper into my addiction, there was times where I was addicted to pills and heroin, and that is like, that overtook me. That was like, I would do anything to get high.
Yeah, heroin's rough.
But like the meth was just more like you were chasing it because you were like tired, or like you were chasing it because you were trying to get hype again, or like whatever. It wasn't, for me, it wasn't really like I need this. It was just there.
So once you started doing meth, and did that kind of become your new friend group, the group that was doing meth with you?
Yeah. So I actually I lived with my grandmother in Texas after I graduated high school, and I started dabbling with these people. I basically went and I packed up my car full of all my stuff and just started hanging out with them all the time. Wherever they were at, I was there, and then I was planning on getting my own apartment. That was my plan.
How quick was that from meeting them?
I want to say, so my dad came down to Texas my first final week. So my first finals in community college, which I would say is like around Thanksgiving-ish. And he was supposed to help me look for an apartment, and I was going to get my own place. And he looked at me and he said, "You're coming home with me." He was like, "You look like crap. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but you need to come home with me." And I didn't want to. And so.
Did you though? Oh, no.
He took my car. He took my phone. Because he paid for my car. He paid for my phone. And actually, I think he let me keep my phone, but he turned the service off. But yeah, he took my car, and he said, "If you want to go, you can go. But you're not taking any of this stuff with you."
Yeah.
Which.
So what'd you do once he took your car? I mean, what?
I was so mad. I was running around my Grammy's house, acting a fool, screaming and crying. And
but did that force you to have to stay at your grandma's house?
No, I actually had them come pick me up. I got picked up that night.
And then just
stayed
with them.
High. Yep.
Wow, isn't that crazy that what drugs would do, because you abandon the people that truly love your dad. That's a tough position to be a dad, and this little girl seeing that, and what he was trying to do, and I would do the same thing, is try to take away as much resources that are allowing you in this lifestyle as possible.
Right.
But in the same time, you're like, man, I'm leaving my little girl with no vehicle, and that's tough. That's tough. That's tough love.
He's told me, we've talked about it since, and he was just like, that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
Yeah.
But he knew that in that moment, that's what I needed. And it took me I think I was only running around with those people for like, I would say a few weeks. And I finally called my Grammy one day and I said, please let me come back home. And she picked me up and she let me come back home.
So when you get back home, did you sober up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I laid on that couch for about a week and my Grammy would feed me and tickle my back and play with my hair and just help me until I felt better.
Well, at that moment, was it just meth?
For the most part, yeah.
Had you tried heroin yet?
Yes. I didn't really like it at first.
Were you just smoking it, or had you shot up?
No, I was shooting up meth at that point.
Oh, you were shooting up meth?
Yeah.
Okay. What about heroin?
Heroin, I hadn't shot up. I just smoked it, and I just didn't really. I didn't love. I mean, it was cool, I guess, or whatever, but it just wasn't.
Yeah,
what
you
I
got
was,
hooked yet. So you get back to your grandma's and get sobered up. What was the path from there?
So she got me into a like an outpatient program. So I was doing Subsolve. So it's kind of like Suboxone a little bit, and then I would like go to groups twice a week, and she would take me to groups, and then
did those groups and stuff, did that like really get you focused to where you were like, yeah, I'm gonna kill it. I'm getting things.
Not like in the moment, like they were good. I think like it planted seeds, but no, they weren't. That was not as intense as what I really needed in that moment.
So you go to that, and how long did being sober?
So not long. So my Grammy told me that I was gonna need to go back home to Arkansas. So I was working on getting. So I was still in that outpatient program. So I was coming back to Arkansas, and I would be here, and then I would have my doctor's appointment in Texas, and so I would go back to Texas for like a week, do my appointment, and then get my medicine and come back. Once I started doing the back and forth thing, all sobriety was gone. I just found the same people with different names here. Yeah. And I was hanging out with the same kind of people.
Yeah, that's I've talked to people just throughout the years that trying to get sober, and they're like, man, I just need to get away. And I'm like, I promise you, it'll find you no matter where you go. Yeah. It's everywhere you go, and you have to choose to. I mean, you can't get away from it. You just have to want to be away from
absolutely.
it. So so you come back to Arkansas and you relapse, get back hooked. Were you staying at your dad's at this time?
Yeah, I was kind of. It's all such a blur, but yeah, I was basically with my dad for. In and out of my dad's house. There would be like friends I would stay with for a little bit. Like there was a guy I dated and I stayed with him, and my dad, had to try and come get me from him. And then.
What kind of conversations did your dad have in these times? Do you remember them? Was he just like probably blown away? Like, I can't believe my daughter's in this.
I mean, he was never like mean.
Yeah.
Or anything like, I remember a time that he showed up at this house I was at, and he just was banging on the door, and he was like, just come with me. And I was just like, no. And, me, if that was me and my daughter was telling me no, I would rip the door down. Yeah. And I would put her in the car. But I think he just knew that, like, eventually his love was going to be enough to, like, help me with what I needed.
Did he ever have any conversation with you, like, why are you throwing this away? Like, trying to figure out what the reasoning
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of conversations just about like why I did it, and I never really had a good answer. Like, I would just kind of be like, I don't know, like I never really dug deep into that conversations when he was trying to have them, until I got a lot older and I was able to kind of pinpoint why it was I did the things I at that point I didn't even know why I was doing them. It was just like I just gravitated more towards that.
Yeah. Okay, so he tried to get you at a house. You didn't go. What got you to the point to where it was, you were on heroin and it was to where you would do anything for your next high? And then how were you able to afford it?
So, I went to Decision Point a couple times, got out of there. I would say though that my worst rock bottom point was probably after Teen Challenge.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there was definitely.
So how did you get into the Teen Challenge? How did you even know about Teen Challenge program?
I ended up in jail.
Okay.
So I got arrested throughout
with possession.
Yeah. So I got possession. I sat in jail for about 45 days ish.
Oh wow. Okay.
And
what was that like?
Terrible. It was terrible. Finally convinced. I don't know if it was my dad or my mom. Oh, I remember. I went to court and the judge gave me a signature bond. And I put my mom down. So my mom could be the only person that could come get me. No, she didn't have to pay anything, but she just had to sign saying that I would be at my court date. And it took her 45 days to come get me.
Oh, she let you sit in there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And she got me out. And
was she so at this time was your mom more of like becoming like strict of like, hey, you gotta get your life together, or what was her reasoning for letting you sit in there 45 days?
It scared her. I mean, my addiction really, really scared her.
She was hoping that you'd be in there long enough to wake up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your mindset while you were in jail? Were you just getting more and more mad that nobody was coming to get you, or
I was just so ready to get out. I was.
But
honestly,
were you reflecting like, hey, I've got to change. I've got to.
At that point, no.
Yeah.
At that point, I was just like, what do I have to say to get out of here?
You just wanted to get out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when she finally signed me out after 45 days, I was back in county jail in 2 weeks.
For possession again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were you trying to sell, or you just had it on you?
No, I just, that second time I got caught with needles and somebody else's pipe, and like, I took everything that was in the car and I put it in my purse like a dummy.
Did you have enough to get a felony?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I did. And so that was a hard pill to swallow.
Sure.
And, sitting back in county jail, I was just, at that point, I was angry.
Yeah.
And there was a chaplain there. Her name was Judy. And she would come in every Wednesday and she would talk to us. And that's kind of where...
Kind of started planting a seed.
Mm-hmm, and she gave me a Bible. And so that time I started really reading my Bible. And like, I don't know if she told me about Teen Challenge.
Before that, what was your thought of God?
I didn't really know. Like, I mean, I knew that I was told there was a God, I had been told about Jesus in church and stuff like that, but I didn't know who God was at all.
So in those moments, like when you're getting thrown in jail for the second time and stuff, for you, like, did you ever cry out to God, or were you just like...
I prayed a lot.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, it was more like, God, please take me out of this jail. Like, it wasn't any, like...
Surrendering.
No, It was just like, what can you do for me?
Yeah. Okay. So this Judy lady, she plants a seed, and you started reading your Bible, and then I guess eventually you got out.
Well, that I'm pretty
Or was
sure
it a
if I
direct transfer?
if I remember right, I was in there for a few months.
Wow.
And I had heard I think it was, so I was a trustee, so I like was working for the county, like I would work in the kitchen or in laundry or whatever. And they have a program for prisoners called the 309 program. And so if they do really good in prison, they get to go to counties and like run the kitchen or like whatever. And so there were some prisoners, and one of them told me about Teen Challenge. She was from Russellville, and she told me about it. And I ended up telling my grandma, different grandma from the grandma in Texas, but my grandma Mary, I told her about Teen Challenge, and her and her husband Tom did everything that they could to figure out how they were going to get me a bed and how they were going to get me court ordered. And like, since Teen Challenge is a faith-based program, it's kind of hard they don't usually want to court order people to it. So they got the wording just right. They said, if you complete any program of your choice and you complete it within this time frame or whatever, then we'll let you out. So my grandma called Teen Challenge. They got me a bed. I had to do my interview over the jail phone. I had to get my blood work done in the county nurse station. But yeah, by the grace of God, I got to get released to my grandma's custody, and I stayed at my grandma's house that night, and then the next morning she drove me to Russellville. So I was court ordered. I had to complete the 13-month program because that was the program I chose. I had to complete the whole thing.
Did you know that it was 13 months?
I think I knew it was a long-term program, but I don't recall that they told me 13
Teen Challenge
months.
is intense.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if I wouldn't have been court ordered, I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah. So what was your mindset going into Teen Challenge?
When I first got there, I just remembered the house that they had us in was amazing. Like, it was a huge mansion, like, so nice. I got in there and I was just like looking around.
Where were you at?
The first one that I went to was in Russellville.
Okay.
At that point, it was called the Women's Teen Challenge.
Yeah.
And so I was at the Russellville house for, I want to say, like 4 or 5 months. And then they moved me to their Mississippi house. I was only in Mississippi for probably like 3 weeks.
Why did they move you? Did you get in trouble or?
Well, I didn't get in trouble, but there was a girl that came in that knew me. Like, I didn't really know her, but we dated the same guy at one point, and it was just like really tense. And
she had beef with you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even remember if I didn't even really see her that much.
But
it
they
happened
just wanted
so
to
fast.
separate you guys.
Yeah, it just happened so quick. They just literally, I was on probation at that point, so they sent my probation officer a letter saying, this is where she'll be at, and they shipped me there. And then when I was in Mississippi, they decided that they wanted me to move to the Topeka, Kansas house that they opened. And so I was one of the first, I think we only had 9 girls at that Kansas house. And I went there, graduated from there, ended up being the marketing director there over the Missouri and the Kansas location. I ran the marketing for all of it. And it ended up being one of the best times of my life. Like, I have a little bit of resentment towards it because I was pretty, I don't want to say brainwashed, but I thought that was as good as it was going to get for me. Like, I remember asking them, like, hey, can I enroll in college courses and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, yeah, that's fine, but how are you going to get there? And I was just like, there's vans. Like, we have 15 vans. What do you mean, how am I going to get there? And it just felt like
they didn't want to get you.
They just kind of just wanted me to stay where I was at. I mean, I was good at what I was doing, and I was thriving there. So That might just be the devil getting in my ear.
Maybe
trying
they
to,
were
like,
just wanting you to really lock down, establish for a while, and
right.
yeah.
Which, I mean, I can't say that they were probably wrong in that.
Yeah.
I probably should have stayed a little bit longer.
So, so you graduated, and then you basically had a job there.
Yeah.
And
So
then-
I actually had the marketing director position before I graduated.
Yeah.
The marketing director they had at that time ended up just leaving in the middle of the night at one point. And so I had worked under her. I knew basically what I did is I would call Love's or Walmart's or wherever they would set up their fundraisers at, and I would call them and book fundraisers, because that's how 85% of our funding came from fundraising. So we would sell the crosses or whatever outside of stores. And so that was my job, was to book every weekend, Thursday through Saturday, with high profiting stores.
Yeah. So, so you end up leaving. You just said, I'm done with this. I'm going.
Yeah. I told them, I gave them like my 2-week notice or whatever. And I told them like, hey, I'm going back home. Like, my dad's going to come get me. And they wished me well. You know what I mean? They weren't angry with me or anything. They would still probably give me a great reference if I used them and stuff like that. But yeah, one day I just said, my time has come.
Yeah. So when you got home, what happened?
So that was in March of 2020. COVID happened. So there wasn't really... I just remember when I first came home, there wasn't really like much that I could really do. Like, working a job was kind of weird. And I did pretty good for a few months. If I remember right, I started staying with my sister again. And then, I just slowly started dabbling. And
Well, how did you get back into that environment? Were you going to clubs? Were you hooking up with old friends?
yeah, I was hanging out with old. That was my biggest thing, was like, I really wanted to go show people that I changed. Like, I really wanted to go show them what.
Look at me now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the worst thing that I probably should have done.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine. He preached a message one time for a youth group, and he was sitting on a bar stool, and he had all the youth group get in a circle, and he put the bar stool right in the middle of them, and he sat on top of it, and he said, "Hey, I'm on top of the world. I'm living for God. I've changed," and he tried to pull them up.
Yeah.
And they pulled him down.
And that's what, like, I remember telling, I don't know if it was my dad or my stepmom or who it was, but I just would always be like, well, what if I was the one that could help them, And I do think that there were probably people that I spoke life into that I probably helped a little bit, but at the end of the day, I was not as strong as I thought I was.
Yeah. Like I've got some of my old running buddies and stuff that I talk to, but I talk to them in my environment.
Right. Yeah.
I can't talk to them into my old environment.
Yeah.
So that didn't last very long. Look at me, I'm changed. More turned into.
Yeah, I started. It started back with meth first, and then it just quickly.
Was there much conviction? Like the first time after going through 13 months.
The conviction was crazy. And that, like, even at the worst point of my addiction after Teen Challenge, I never got high like I used to. Like, especially meth, it was really scary. Like.
Did going through Teen Challenge, like before that, when you got high, was there much conviction?
Before Teen Challenge, no.
So one good thing about Teen Challenge, when you come out, you got high, like you had heavy conviction.
Oh, yeah.
You can't. I'm sure you just kept getting high, but at least you had.
Oh, it ate me up.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where, like, I mean, I know that there's drug-induced psychosis and stuff like that, but I really believe that sometimes God will let you feel a certain way so that you don't ever want to go back to that. And I think that God was, in a weird way, God was allowing the devil to taunt and poke and prod at me until I was like,
Yeah.
Because I just thought that everybody was out to get me. I even thought my own family wanted ill will towards me, and that's crazy.
Did you, in those moments, did you just get to a point to where you just tried to stay high all the time?
Yes. Yeah. And
was that like just the sober thoughts were haunting?
I think so. I think that I was also just so disappointed in myself that, like, I wanted to numb that disappointment, and so I just got, which that doesn't really make sense. Like,
Yeah.
but
it does. In those moments, I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. There was a short time when I was 14 that I started going to church and got cleaned up, started bringing, I was still in school at the time, bringing people to church.
Yeah.
And then I started partying and drinking and doing drugs again, and all those people that went to church, was going to church with me, quit going.
Yeah.
And I had this thought of their blood on my hands, and that I failed them, I led them astray, and that's where my life really spiraled out of control.
Yeah.
And that shame and that disappointment fed my addiction and my anger and my problems, because I thought, well, now what's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
But I never could get past it eating me up of what I was doing, and so I would just do it harder.
Yeah, that's similar to what I would do. After a few times of getting high on meth, then I start, and which I've had a pill problem previously, and it was a lot easier for me to hide using pills. Like, I could just get them and I could function pretty well, and so I started dabbling in the pills again, and I was living with my dad at that point, and fentanyl started getting real big around then, and that always kind of scared me, but once I was to the point of shooting the pills every day, I didn't care if it was fentanyl, I didn't care if it was heroin, I didn't care what it was. And so that was probably my lowest point, was sitting in my dad's house and getting high every day. And knowing, there were some days that I didn't want to, but at that point, I was going to be sick. I wouldn't be able to go to work. They would know if I didn't get high, that something was up. And so it just kind of continued. And I want to say it was only probably 6 months maybe. And one day I got high before I got in the shower, and the pill that I thought was a Oxy 30 was actually fentanyl, and my dad had to kick the door down because he heard me fall out of the shower and I was blue. So when my dad found me, that was a pretty big moment to make me change.
Did he have to
Thank you.
Did he have to take you to the hospital?
He called the ambulance and he did CPR on me.
Wow. Until
they got there. And I want to say 2 weeks away, or maybe it was even 1 week away from getting off of felony probation. So as soon as I came to and I saw the EMS guys and everything, I was like, oh, I can't go to the hospital. I can't go to the hospital for an overdose because they're never going to let me off paper. And that EMS driver said, we just need you to go get your heart checked. He said, we won't put anything specific in the details, and which I don't know if they did. They may have, but I went and I got the EKG done on my heart, and they said that everything was fine, and I went back home that night, and I haven't touched a pill since.
Wow. That's traumatic. I got twin sisters, and one of them overdosed and actually drowned in the bathtub.
Wow.
And you could have been in the bathtub.
Yeah.
And kind of the same thing. They had her stepdad had to kick down the door, pull her out into the living room, try to do CPR, but she didn't make it. Oh. And my daughter it was on her 3rd birthday, and she had to watch her mom pass away. Wow. But your dad, seeing his little girl butt naked, having to give her CPR, thinking this could be the last. I mean, what a last memory.
Yeah.
That's.
And I know that situation still haunts him. Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah, because that's a very. Because as a dad, when the daughter gets, I got a 17-year-old daughter, she's becoming a young lady. Mm-hmm. There's a privacy, right. When they're, little kids run around butt naked, it's not, but it's just that there's starting to become a separation to where dad, is not, you can't see
and
your.
He told me, I knocked on that door so many times, and he didn't want to come in there, but something told him.
Yeah, you don't have. Yeah, I get it. He heard you. Yeah, but I'm putting myself in his shoes and thinking that's so. That's so heavy because you're like, this is my young lady,
right,
daughter, and I have to give her CPR. Mm-hmm. She just fell out of the shower. I mean, that's a lot of intense. And I'm sure you probably realized all that. Thinking about what your dad had to see and having to save your life. Yeah. So in that moment, what happened? What was the steps? What did the next day look like?
Honestly, my stepmom and I did a lot of we tried to do Bible study. We tried to do a lot of stuff together. But ultimately, I had a lot I had to process on my own. And it didn't come right away. I honestly just kind of went back to normal life after that. And
did you stone cold everything, or were you drinking, or what?
I was what I would consider California sober. So I would smoke weed and drink on occasion, and stuff like that.
I've never heard that. California sober.
But I would say probably for the next year after that, I probably drank a little bit too much. But it wasn't an everyday thing. I do think it was a problem because when I would drink, I would get drunk every time. Mm. And so, and then finally I got to the point where that just didn't really entice me. I'll socially drink, obviously not now that I'm pregnant, but I'll socially drink sometimes. But the drinking every day got old really quick. And I really just think that was somehow God's way of just, he got everything out of my system. And now it's just I don't really have any desire for any of it. And it scares me a lot.
Yeah. So, you're pregnant right now. Is this your first child?
It is my first, thank God. I couldn't imagine if I had one going through everything
And you
I've
said
been
you're
through.
30?
I'll be 31 when I have her, but yes, I'm 30
Okay.
right now.
And you kind of tell when did you start coming to Living Faith? It's been real recent?
So no, well, like I've started going on Wednesdays real recently. When I came back from Teen Challenge, Living Faith was actually the first church that I went to with
Okay.
my dad and Lacey, and we definitely weren't like going every Sunday or anything like that. But any time that we did go to church, that's where we went. And I remember my first church service after Teen Challenge was at Living Faith, and it just, a lot of people don't really, like a lot of other churches, like they get freaked out whenever people put their hands up or like, you know, start prancing their feet and stuff like that. And I love that. Like I just really love when the Spirit of God falls in praise and worship. And so that's kind of what made me, I mean, I'm not a member at Living Faith yet, but I consider it like my home church for sure.
So you came before you got pregnant.
Yep.
Like you've been coming for a little while.
Yeah.
And how far along are you?
I'm almost 5 months.
Almost 5 months. So, and you've been coming to my marriage class, which me and David, I probably haven't taught since you've came, but I've kind of put that more off on David. I actually, I think I've been teaching that class for like 12 years, maybe even longer. And I just kind of got to where I'm like, I need to take a break. Well, David was like, I want to keep it going. Yeah. So David's been gracious enough to teach a lot more than me. I teach every once in a while, like if he's going out of town or something. But what is spawning this? Like where are you at now? Because Rose, you've got a lot of victory in your life. I know that you can look at it of got a lot of trauma, but I look at it as you got a lot of victory.
Yeah.
Because, God has pulled you out of a pit that Satan would have loved to keep you in and destroyed you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, there's still, we talked a little bit, you still got some hardships and you still got some things that are probably still going to be a little tough.
Right.
But where do you feel like God is at in all that? Like what is your mindset with your relationship with Jesus Christ?
He is the only thing that really keeps me going right now. And I feel kind of convicted that it took me finding out I was pregnant to kind of get back to that relationship with him, because I had a very strong relationship with him in Teen Challenge, and I got distracted and life happened and I just stopped praying and I stopped listening to praise and worship. And then when I found out I was pregnant, it was like everything was like came to a point and I was like, oh my gosh. And I just keep thinking about what it would be like to have to go through what I put my parents through with my baby. And so I'm trying to do everything that I learned in Teen Challenge to, have a good environment and be protected by God in everything that I do and everything that she does. And, I really want her to grow up with a crazy Christian mom, like I would much rather her be surrounded by so much goodness that it's like annoying to her than to not really know where to go when things get bad.
Yeah.
So my pregnancy has definitely led me right back to him. But like that year that I was there, I learned so much about like his presence and his goodness. And, so like I know that he's all I need. And so it took that shock to like for me to just kind of start weeding stuff out of my life, and putting myself back in that box of like listening to praise and worship constantly and reading the Bible. I'm reading the Bible every single day again, and I'm praying every day again.
Good
and
for you.
So it's just really implementing the stuff that I learned that I have always had on my tool belt, you know. But yeah, I mean, the world makes it easy to just kind of decide like, oh, I'll read my Bible later. I'll scroll on TikTok instead, or like whatever.
Yeah. It's good that, well, okay, so you have I had my little sister, the one of the twins that and she was hooked on heroin and really had, she ended up having to go to rehab. She ended up getting pregnant again, and ended up getting in a program that took pregnant,
Yeah.
expecting moms, and it was like a drug program.
Right.
But she said something really profound, because she was at a low point. She still lived in California. Didn't value her life. She both my sisters, beautiful girls, beautiful women, and but it's really sad as an older brother to see them to where I felt like they didn't value themselves.
Right.
And I think she was in that point. But she said that when she found out she was pregnant, she couldn't. That really turned, like you said, it really pushed her to view God and to look at God, because she said she couldn't believe that God would allow her to have life inside of her when she felt dead.
Yeah.
And that was just a crazy statement. The way that she thought that she was honored that God allowed life to be inside of her, because she felt dead, on the outs in her personal life. And she's doing amazing now. She's
awesome.
She finished nursing school and got a good job, and she's single mom. She's raising her son and spanking his butt, and she's doing the because it's tough being a single mom. We don't have the dad and that, because I feel, like for me, I handle the discipline. I line the kids out.
Right.
My wife's a nurturing and if they're consoling, talking, and I'm more like get on their butt and stuff. And when you're a single mom, you have to play both those roles. And but God is a good father.
Absolutely.
And with you you're talking about reading your word, and you're coming to church, and you're surrendering to God. I would challenge you with this thought. It really helped me as a father, because the Bible talks about laying aside every weight. Because what's going to happen now, Satan probably not going to get you back doing heroin and meth. Right. And so now he's going to go, okay, I still need to entangle her with something. I need to weigh her down. Right. I need to steal her attention off of God. That's his number one goal. Yeah. His number one goal is to destroy your relationship with Jesus Christ and destroy that child that you bear. Yeah. Right? He does not want you to succeed. He does not want your child to succeed. Right. He wants you back ruining your life, and he wants you being an example to ruin your child's life. Right. Right? God wants the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. God wants to open up doors and put you on the path of the godly woman that he created you to be before you're ever born. Yeah. And the same with your child. And so you have to make up your mind that serving the Lord for your own benefit, for your child's benefit, for the people, is more valuable than anything else that the world would try to entice you with. Absolutely. Like, to have that mindset of, if this makes me a better mom, a better woman of God, that's what I want. If it doesn't, even if you like it, even if you enjoy it, I would rather lay it down because my focus is to be a godly woman and a godly mom. I love the fact what you said, that you wanted to create an environment to where your daughter is annoyed about how much you praise and worship the Lord. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great. My grandma was a Pentecostal, God-fearing woman, and I remember thinking sometimes my grandma was so crazy. I mean, she'd be praising God, crying, coming down the halls with her hands up in the air. She had big old hands, my grandma did, and she was loud, and she didn't care, and she'd be just crying and praising God, and it's like, Grandma, you're crazy. I always thought something was wrong, and she's like, it's happy tears. I'm just praising the Lord. But she was sometimes embarrassingly crazy about her love for Jesus Christ.
Right.
And she didn't care.
Yeah.
You know, there'd be people over, and all of a sudden, she would just get to praise, and she'd go over to the piano and just start playing the piano and singing.
That's awesome.
So, and she laid aside any weight. She had a mission. You know, me and my mom and her, most of her sons, they put her through hell. I mean, they with prison and drugs and having to pick me. You know, they had to pick me up from jail. I think 3 different times, and but she, being a woman of God, was so important to her. She laid aside weights because she didn't want to get tripped up. Yeah. She was on a mission.
Yeah.
And I think that, Rose, that God's got you on a mission.
Amen.
And so what's the plan now?
Plan now is, honestly, I'm just trusting. I mean, obviously, I'm going to have a baby soon. That's part of the plan. And, you know, other than that, I'm just blindly trusting that God has it in his hands. I'm going to be doing it alone, and that's hard, and it comes with a lot of
because you said
questions.
the baby's daddy you met. Is that you met in the halfway house? Or?
No, that was
somebody else.
Yeah, that was somebody else.
Okay.
I met the baby's father a few years ago, and definitely thought that it was a lot more serious than it obviously was. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was told to get rid of it, and that's just not in me.
Yeah.
I really didn't think that I could get pregnant. You know, like I thought, you know, I'm 30 years old, like my chances have passed. And luckily God was just protecting me from bringing a kid into chaos.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know my exact clean date, but it's going on 3 years now.
Wow.
And so, you know, finally God decided it was time, and so I don't really know what that is going to look like, but I know that...
Well, I tell you, if you serve God, it'll look awesome.
Yeah.
It'll blow your mind.
Yeah. And I was honestly so scared at first, and now I'm just so excited. Like, I know that regardless of what it looks like, it's going to be worth it.
Yeah. You know, so... Rose, just a couple things that I haven't known you that long,
right?
But just listening to you talk, I know that you're going to. You're very easy to talk to.
Thanks.
You're very kind in your words. Like I feel like you're a person that if somebody was struggling, you would listen as long as it takes.
Yeah.
And that's a gift. And I know that, you know, God gives us a promise, and I'm so thankful that he does, that all these hardships and these things that we bring upon ourselves, he gives us a promise when we serve him that what Satan meant for evil, what Satan meant to destroy your life, he will turn for good.
Yep.
And I can hear it in your voice. I can see it on you that that's exactly what's going to happen. These things that you've learned, the hardships that you've went through, the struggle and the pain, and what God has brought you out of, you're going to bring life to other young ladies that are struggling.
I hope so.
And let them see the value.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully you see the value in you like God sees you. You know, I mean, that's why I tell my sister, don't ever sell yourself short. You're worth
Right.
too much. You know, and just be patient with God, and God's got a great story for you. You know, and for your baby.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm excited the fact that I get to, as long as you keep, of course, I'll always be coming to Tropical Smoothie. You know, I don't know how long you'll be there, but coming to church, and I'm excited to see this baby and to see you grow and to see just what.
I know in
What
like
God
a year,
happens.
I'm going to look back and just be like, holy crap.
Oh yeah,
Like, oh my gosh.
yeah,
So it's a really cool thing to think about.
yeah. Well, Rose, thanks for being so honest, and you didn't pull no punches, and you were willing to talk about anything.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a gift too. Just being humble, and I think that just is a testament that you are changed, because it's like you're talking about somebody that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
This is a new Rose.
Right.
This is the child of God, Rose, that is on the path to serving the Lord. So thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Guys, thanks for joining us on Unfathered Fathers and hearing Rose's incredible story. And it's really just beginning. I mean, just the path and that God set her on. It's going to be amazing, and I'll probably bring her on in maybe another year and just see what because I just know God's going to be doing things probably that she be out of your comfort zone and just that she has no idea. But thanks for watching, and remember, as always, and Rose, I don't know if you've heard my saying, but the best way to become an idiot is to hang out with idiots, and you'll quickly become one.
That's awesome.
So guys, thanks for watching.